Key thing for me as being an entrepreneur is everything is always changing. The experiences you'll have in a week, you'd probably have in a year in a full-time job.
The gap in the market was doing a visit in India, and we met people with health issues that can easily be treated if they had access to the diagnostic tools. The problem is that most diagnostic tools are huge, big, heavy, bulky, and extremely expensive.
Like a lot of founders, it was a frustration that I identified with personally, and I decided I wanted to try and fix. So that frustration was...
Being in a startup is all about learning from your experience. There are definitely mistakes. You don't have to say it out loud.
Although I've learned so much and it probably changed the future, I wouldn't change anything that's happened because it's happened for a reason. I wouldn't go back and change anything. It kind of got us to where we are now.
We're actually looking forward to be global. The idea is to democratize healthcare and make these resources available for everyone. Live app came, and hopefully that would be the beginning of the scale up now. So for me, the advice is
The talk today is with Ramarch, founder of Gigmate, and Rani Maklad, the CEO of Ocuwell. They're both running deep tech businesses, and they've previously and still are sort of receiving support from Live Labs, who we're collaborating with on the meetup today. So if you've not come across Gigmate before, it's a platform that keeps you up to date and connected with live music fans, with gigs, venues, and fellow fans, ensuring you never miss out on a great show. They'll help you find your tribe to share a forgettable night together. Ocuwell is a provider of innovative diagnostic and customization tools that are small, portable, affordable, and incorporate cutting-edge technologies. So thanks ever so much for being with us today. It's really lovely to have you here. And again, like I said, it's absolutely brilliant to be in this space and wanting to run one of our meetups here for a very long time. So we've got some questions for you, because we had some students sort of pitch as well. I thought I'd start the first question. And obviously we've got student and graduate entrepreneurs here as well. But the first question is, were you entrepreneurial in school and or university? What experiences within that influenced you to go on to develop an interest in entrepreneurship and in particular the deep tech space?
Actually, I did it when I was at school. I was brought up in a culture when I have to work really hard, get A and A stars, go to university, and then you can do whatever you want after that. So while I was at school, that wasn't really part. But my dad had a business, and we, as a family, we were all involved in it. So it was like, if there was any decisions, it would come pass by us. And that made me always think that, when am I going to start my own business? I did have a business before Ocuwell. COVID didn't treat it very well. So when Ocuwell came around, I was more or less happy and ready to go ahead with the idea.
Thank you. Yeah, slightly different story. So I wasn't the 8-year-old selling contraband against the tuck shop. I haven't kind of got that background in school. But I think a key thing for me as being an entrepreneur is everything is always changing. The experiences you'll have in a week, you'd probably have in a year in a full-time job. So I think my closest experience was not doing very well in my A-levels as I'd expected and been predicted, and having to completely change course at 18. But that kind of got me into the mindset of being ready for change.
Yeah, I can sort of relate to that. I didn't do too well at school kind of either, which is ironic because I now teach at a university. None of my teachers would probably expect that. And again, I have sort of a similar experience, but I didn't necessarily sort of recognize, but both my parents were sort of entrepreneurs. But at the time, you don't sort of experience that. So it's interesting kind of being in a traditional educational environment and not necessarily sort of doing as well as your peers and feeling a bit different, but feeling that you're still driven to do something, or actually being surrounded by other people who, consciously or subconsciously have like an influence on you to support you or to encourage or influence you, to go into entrepreneurship, to be a bit more creative and to think outside the box. The second question is, did you start any ventures before Gigmate or Ocuwell? How did the successes and failures within that help you to go on to create the businesses you now run?
No, this is the first time I've run my own business, but I've worked in the live events industry. So I've worked in the sector for 25 years and have certainly had quite a few failures through that, and definitely learned through that I've carried forward into this business without doubt, and some successes as well.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I did. But it wasn't a full-time venture. It was something that I was trying out. I saw an opportunity in the market and I used it. But prior to this, though, I was a teacher, a lecturer at the university, and then I did the business side on the side. It worked really well, but then in COVID, things changed, and it was shipping prices that caused the problem. So I thought I'll cut my losses before it goes too deep. But it wasn't in the same sector. It's not deep tech. Live app came an idea. We're doing a visit to India, and we saw certain issues, health issues, that if we managed to create an affordable and portable diagnostic tools, it will make a huge difference to humanity. And I reached certainly a stage in my life that when I can give back, and this is how I got involved in Ocuwell.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of really interesting that in terms of that you both seem to come to entrepreneurship a bit later in life. But I mean, I've always been creative, and I mean, ironically, I've had entrepreneur in a job title 3 times. I don't see myself as an entrepreneur. I see myself more as a creative who tries to commercialize their sort of creativity. In terms of what really surprised me, and obviously being an entrepreneur from a young age and feeling like you're constantly failing and not becoming successful. And then I actually looked at who are the most successful entrepreneurs in the country, and actually they're between the brackets of sort of 40 and 50 years old, which obviously shows you actually that, there's different paths to entrepreneurship. And actually the most successful entrepreneurs usually go and work within a sector and gain a decade or two's worth of experience, maybe get to the point where they want to expand and stretch themselves, or they want to be able to create their own processes, systems and procedures, and not sort of be boxed in, and then finally are able to take that sort of leap. So I mean, I think from my perspective and looking at the academic literature, it's sort of encouraging, sort of seeing that you're both doing that. But actually, if you are going to become a successful entrepreneur, the odds are in your favor if you're doing it sort of in those ages where you've already got that experience, and then you can use that to sort of best effect. So what initial gap in the market did you spot, and how did you trial and test that to validate the product or service, to ensure that it was required, and that ultimately something that I've not necessarily done so well because my background is social entrepreneurship, but that individuals are actually sort of willing to pay for what you're offering.
Okay, so I think I mentioned that a little bit. So the gap in the market was doing a visit in India, and we met people with health issues that could easily be treated if they had access to the diagnostic tools. The problem is that most diagnostic tools are huge, big, heavy, bulky, and extremely expensive. Even for here in the UK, they are expensive. So we've started to think about something that is portable, very precise, easy to use, so you don't need a professional to use it, and affordable, which was very important. And straight away we came back from India and started thinking of ideas. I am not the scientific person, but I kind of support it. Not in the scientific part, but in setting up the company and looking at the market and the competition. As you all younger entrepreneurship, you looked at the market, the competition, who's there. Is there something similar? Is there a patent? Is there an IP in there? And then we go on with it. That was 2 years ago, and we're doing really well. We have a prototype that next month, hopefully, will be trialed. People will do our clinical trials. And rather than professionals buying something for £65,000, they will be able to buy something for £4,000. And rather than having it in a room that you have to travel to, they can have it in their pockets and they come and see you, or go to the community centre and check your eyes, or go to areas where there's no access, underserved area when there's no access to healthcare, or actually in the hospital, they can go around. Children, it'd be easy for them to use it. They don't have to sit in front of a huge big machine. So that is the idea of what we're doing.
Firstly, I appreciate the love for the mature entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's
very important.
I skipped that there.
Yeah, in terms of the idea, so like a lot of founders, it was a frustration that I identified with personally, and I decided I wanted to try and fix. So that frustration was not always missing out on events. So I've loved going to live events, live music for about 30 years. I've been lucky enough to work in that sector for 25 years. But so many times I'd miss out on a gig because I either didn't know about it or I couldn't drag someone along because they weren't into that type of music. The personal experience came from after COVID, when gigs were getting rescheduled and the dates had changed and different people were going. And I found myself going with people that I didn't really know, and it was absolutely fine. And more than that, it was quite a good experience meeting different people through music. And that was kind of the light bulb moment where I thought, right, I'm going to test this out. I did that in Liverpool, set up a database, just told people about events that were coming up and checked out if they wanted to meet anyone else to go along with. And they did. So that was the start.
Cool, that's brilliant. I think a lot of sort of people that get into entrepreneurship, quite often they're designing a product or service that they were kind of wanted or needed or looking for themselves. And I think that's a really good driver if you kind of passionate about something and you have that light bulb moment and you're searching for it and you can't find it and you're like, someone needs to do this. And then suddenly there comes a really scary realization that like that someone looks like it's going to have to be me. But it's a really sort of great sort of point. Obviously, sort of, you know, your serial entrepreneurs, you know, a lot of people will start out with those light bulb moments, but over time they get into more like effectual sort of entrepreneurship, which I know is a sort of a term now, sort of where you're using, okay, what are my skills, experience and expertise? Who are my other contacts and connections? And then designing and developing something about that. But I think there's nothing more exciting than having that light bulb moment, spotting that opportunity and kind of creating something that you think needs to be there, because ultimately, especially when you first starting out, it's that passion that really needs to ultimately sort of drive you to go on and be successful, because there's going to be no one else sort of there behind you unless you are lucky enough to find a co-founder, which I've sort of never managed to do. It's probably because nobody wants to run an entrepreneurial venture rather than me not looking in the right sort of or wrong sort of places. So what types of advice and guidance did you access to help you set up Gigmate and Ocuwell? And within all of that, what support did you gain off Liver Labs in particular that's helped you accelerate the business's development?
I think initially I was a solo founder, so I was on my own, and that's quite tricky. And I was very similar to the guys that presented today. It was a side hustle. I was working and I was trying to do it on an evening and do it on a weekend and just try and test it, because you're testing it for yourself as well as for the market to know whether it's worthwhile then committing more time. Lucky enough to have some great people around me, some very technical, competent people around me that could kind of see how the idea could progress and kind of keep me pushed forward. But you're right, it's that passion that drives you and can drive you past where you would probably sensibly stop if you actually didn't have that there. But yeah, you then look for opportunities like Liver. So yeah, I'm part of the Deep Tech Incubator. So that's a relatively small cohort. I think we're about 12 or 13 businesses that they've selected to take through the 6-month program. But that's amazing because you're getting great content delivered to you across a range of areas, but you're also working with that cohort. So you're working with other startups that are going through similar problems, similar challenges, and it is that thing that a problem shared is problem half, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah, brilliant.
So for me, the advice is, if it's something you believe in, just persevere with it. It will happen. And it's your drive and your faith in the idea is what is going to get you going. You will get up and down. But if you can manage the downs, then the ups are amazing. For us, we started with grant funding. So every time we apply for a grant and we get it, even if it's a tiny little bit of money, it was like a celebration. And that kept us going for quite a bit. Integrate UK, UKRI, local authority fund. For me, it wasn't an only venture. We are 3 co-founders and we started together. So I wasn't involved in the scientific part of the technology parts, but I was supporting the ecosystem, so making sure the company is running properly and set up properly. We have contact with solicitors, because it's healthcare as well. You have to make sure that you have insurances and stuff. So I was doing all of this. And then because we all had a shared vision, we made it move heaps on very, very little money. We all had jobs as well as this. Then I stopped working. So I'm only working in the company now. Still not paid, but working on the company. Only the company. And then Live App came, and hopefully that would be the beginning of the scale up now. So it'd be, so we were a small spin. We are actually a spin out from the University of Liverpool. So Liverpool supported us also throughout the way. But now it's time to scale up and go a bit bigger and do our clinical trials, and hopefully within 9 to 12 months, they will be on the market and people will have access to it.
No, that's brilliant. I think, I sort of really resonate with when I've kind of gone on programs. So I studied at the School for Social Entrepreneurs, for example. It's really great to be around other people that you don't kind of have to explain what you're doing or why you're doing it, or that you feel like you're the odd sort of one out. Like peer-to-peer support is so sort of crucial, or even just knowing that there's other crazy people that are happy to work 100 hours a week and think there's absolutely nothing wrong sort of with that. I mean, the main reason why I set up and run Entrepreneurs Monthly Meetups is to kind of bring those like-minded individuals together. I suppose the only downside is then I have to sort of manage and run everything, so I don't necessarily get the time to sort of interact and engage in that way. But as long as I know that I'm building a platform to try and help and support others to engage with, individuals like them to find, I mean, you're fortunate enough to have co-founders, but these types of things where you can find other people to cry on their shoulder, or a potential co-founder, or who do you use to produce your sort of application, who does your social media sort of marketing, all those little things like, oh my God, accounts, like what's going on here is sort of really sort of invaluable, I find. So if you could go back, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently with the business if you were able to start all over again?
If I don't do anything differently, that means I haven't learned from the experience. And actually being in a startup is all about learning from your experience. I've learned loads from the one before. Life experience for me, I don't have to say how old I am, but that added to my learning curve. And you just keep learning. So I started an MBA at the beginning of this year. Maybe I should have done this 5 years ago. I don't know. But yes, I'll do things differently. I probably will stop the other job earlier so I can concentrate on my work. But again, finances and so on. I don't think I'll change a lot, but because for me, the mission, the value, and the vision are very important, and we had this right from the beginning. So yeah, there are definitely mistakes. You don't have to say it out loud. And definitely, I would have changed things, or I would really say that I haven't learned anything. But starting your own business and make it grow is a huge learning curve. A huge learning curve.
I'd say exactly the same thing. Loads of experiences, positive, constructive, and not so much so. I think pacing is really important, because sometimes you can get overexcited and you might spend too much money somewhere or put too much effort into something. So you've got to you're driven by passion, but you've got to kind of have that helicopter view over everything. Very similar. I wouldn't, although I've learned so much and it probably changed the future, I wouldn't change anything that's happened, because it's happened for a reason. So I wouldn't go back and change anything. It kind of got us to where we are now, but through that, we're ready for the rocket fuel to get going.
Yeah, no, some sort of good answers. I like that you are keeping some of those challenges and issues as sort of trade secrets. But yeah, unfortunately, you do have to go these things. And I think as long as you kind of don't repeatedly make those mistakes time and time again, you know, it's okay that they're kind of made. It's just take these things on sort of board and make sure you don't make the same mistake sort of twice. So for our final sort of question, what are the future plans for Gigmate, Ocuwell, and what's your parting message to young entrepreneurs and the main words of advice that you can offer?
We're just at a really exciting stage now, and the Live Labs program's been the real kickstart of that. We also got some investment from Innovate UK that's really helped us develop the product and has allowed us to pay ourselves a very, very small amount of money. So we're definitely in the Aldi Lidl camp. It's not M&S for us. But some of the conversations that we're having now and some of the potential partnerships, it feels like 2025 is going to be a very, very exciting year for us from a development perspective. I think for advice, I love the fact of how far all the guys that presented before have got already. I think that was phenomenal. You're making money. I'm not making money yet, so you're ahead of me. Like, you've got revenue, you've got cash in the bank, and that's amazing. And I just think coming back to, like you were saying before, yeah, age is a benefit and experience is a benefit, but just keep doing what you're doing and you'll find a way to build other experiences on top of that. I think coming back to that question of what would you change, it's that realization that you can't do everything and you can't be perfect at everything. I think to your point, just make sure you've got good people around you. That's my advice.
The future for Ocuwell, we're actually looking forward to be global. The idea is to democratize healthcare and make these resources available for everyone. So we have a device now. We're working on a second one that does something differently and a third one that will do something differently. So the idea is to have these devices available everywhere in the world, not just here. Also very optimistic about 2025. I'm hoping that before the end of 2025, we will be producing some revenue, because at the moment there isn't any. And well done, all of you, for actually looking at the market and looking at the competition and knowing where you stand and where you want to go. And this is very good. And if there is a little dip, don't worry, because it will pick up again. Look at the ecosystem around you and find where else can you get funding from, and how can you grow your business, and how can you make it accessible for other people as well. And I think one good thing, and that's because of age, is look at the social value of it as well. So businesses is not just about making money. If there is something that you really want to deliver, make sure that you have a social value to it as well, because that is very satisfying in the first place. And also it makes a huge impact on yourself and on the community around you. So well done, guys.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I'm awesome. I'm sort of very optimistic as well by sort of 2025. I don't know whether it's just because it's sort of quarter of a century, but I finally feel like this year's the year when we're going to get those flying cars from Back to the Future. I don't know about how many of you like grew up sort of watching that as well and thinking like, when are they coming? Like, come on, like. But I think we're going to get there. Maybe 2025 is the cool. That concludes and brings everything to. Can I please have a round of applause for Rob and Rani? Can I just also personally thank sort of Emily and sort of Rachel for being on the panel as well. And especially to Emily, thank you for fulfilling my dream of sort of running the entrepreneurship monthly meetup here. Thanks to Kate for talking to us all sort of about Live Labs. So hopefully they've showcased you sort of really well. So obviously people know more about you for the future. Ever so much thanks again to Mrs. Hagan and all the students for very bravely presenting in front of everybody. But yeah, it's very, like, every time that I run sort of a pitch event like this, I sort of have to pinch myself and be like, when I was like 12 or 13, like getting in front of 60, 70 sort of people to pitch an idea is something that was sort of wasn't even sort of imaginable. So yeah, I'm in awe of all of you. And finally, just thanks to sort of Jay for sort of recording everything, Zaned for helping, and Rob as well. And yeah, we'll go on to the final sort of showcase or finale sort of. And then do the M&S thing. I've noticed there are some people who are wearing Christmas jumpers. So what I'm going to do is, I think I can spot two of you. So the two people who've also come in Christmas jumper, what I want you to do is you come down and basically take what prize you want. So come down, who's got, three. So there's three. Oh, there's four. Okay, right, four, get over it. So basically, you can take whatever you want first. Come on, quickly.